This happened around 5 years ago, and I had just gotten off work and was on my way to see my dad for the 4th of July weekend. My dad had just moved 12 hours away, and this was the first time I was making the road trip to see him at his new house. I was using my GPS to direct me to his place. I was driving along on a deserted highway when my beat-up Ford pickup truck coughed twice. The second cough a death rattle. I'd just had my truck serviced a week earlier, so was furious that something was wrong. Pulling over onto the dusty shoulder, I nursed the steering wheel, a knot of dread tightening in my gut. There was nothing but scrub brush and the distant skeletal silhouette of mountains for miles. My phone had died, so I decided to drive a bit further, and that's when I saw it, a crooked neon sign advertising Sid's Pit Stop. Relief flooded me. A mechanic. Maybe even a lukewarm soda. Sid's Pit Stop was a mirage come to life. Pumps stood frozen in mid-motion, hoses dangling limply. The windows were boarded up, casting the faded paint and appealing Sid's Pit Stop logo in an eerie shadow. Complete silence. Not even the comforting hum of a fridge dared to pierce it. I slammed the car door, the hollow echo amplifying the emptiness. With a cautious hand, I pushed open the creaking door. A thick layer of dust coated everything. The shelves of dubious snacks, the lottery ticket dispenser hanging on by a thread. A faded calendar on the wall showed December 2014, a stark reminder of the last time this place saw life. A sudden gust of wind rattled the boarded windows, making me jump. I was starving and tired, so grabbed a Snickers from the dusty shelf. The chocolate stale but a welcome source of sugar. As I reached for a lukewarm Pepsi, a flash of movement in the window caught my eye. My heart hammered against my ribs. There, reflected in the dusty glass, stood a figure. A woman. Her hair was long and dark, plastered to her forehead with sweat. Her eyes, wide with terror, locked with mine for a fleeting second before she vanished. Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't a gas station. It was a scene from a bad horror movie. I dropped the Pepsi, the glass shattering on the dusty floor. The only thought in my head was escape. Out the door I stumbled, my Ford's engine sputtering back to life on the third try. I slammed it into reverse, tires kicking up dust in a cloud. In the rearview mirror, I could swear I saw a flicker of movement in the boarded window, a hand reaching out. I didn't look back. I drove until the sun began to set, painting the sky in angry reds and oranges. Only when a cluster of lights signaled a real bustling truck stop did I allow myself to breathe. But that night, in the flickering light of the motel room, the image of the woman in the window burned behind my eyelids. Was it a trick of the light? A figment of my overheated imagination? Or was there something more sinister lurking in the empty gas station on that deserted highway? I will never know. I scoured maps for any sign of the station, but it vanished without a trace. Even stranger, my GPS rerouted me on the return trip, taking a completely different route. Since that nightmarish stop, my truck hasn't coughed since. It was almost like something had pulled me off the highway, forcing me to stop there. I can't help but wonder what secrets that gas station holds. Maybe someday I'll find a way back, but a part of me hopes I never do. Let me tell you about something that happened to me a few years back. I've been a long-haul trucker for over 20 years. Seen all sorts of things on the road, but this one night on Route 66 still haunts me. I was driving through Arizona, close to midnight. The highway was dead quiet, and the desert around me was lit by the pale glow of the moon. I was on a tight schedule to make a delivery in Los Angeles, so I was pushing through the night, just me and the hum of my truck. About 20 miles outside of Kingman, I noticed a figure standing by the side of the road. At first, I thought it was a hitchhiker. But something felt off. As I got closer, I saw it was a woman dressed in a flowing white gown, her hair wild and messy. She looked like she had stepped out of another era, like a ghost from the past. I slowed down, curiosity getting the better of me despite the chill creeping down my spine. When I was close enough, she lifted her head and our eyes met. Her eyes were dark voids, her face full of sorrow. Instinctively, I hit the gas and sped past her. I glanced in my rearview mirror, expecting her to disappear, but she was still there, standing motionless and watching me drive away. Rattled, I pulled into a diner in Kingman. I needed a break, and a strong cup of coffee sounded like heaven. As I sat at the counter, the waitress Maggie noticed I looked shaken. "Rough night?" she asked, pouring me a steaming mug. "You could say that," I replied, hesitating before adding, "I saw something strange on the road. A woman in white, just standing there." Maggie's face went pale. She set the coffee pot down and leaned in. "You're not the first to see her. Folks around here call her the ghost of Route 66. Some say she's the spirit of a woman who died in a car crash back in the 70s. Others think she's much older, maybe from the drought in the 1930s. But everyone agrees on one thing: seeing her is a bad omen." Intrigued and unnerved, I started talking to the locals and other truckers. The stories were similar. Sightings of a ghostly woman on the same stretch of road, usually late at night. Those who saw her often reported a feeling of intense sadness or dread. Some said their vehicles malfunctioned soon after, while others talked about vivid nightmares in the following nights. An old-timer named Bill, who'd been driving Route 66 for decades, shared his story. "Saw her once, back in '89. Nearly ran off the road. Felt like she was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't understand. Next day, I learned my brother had died in an accident the same night. Never could shake the feeling she was warning me." A week later, on my return trip, I found myself back on that stretch of Route 66. The memory of the ghost fresh in my mind. This time, I drove slower, eyes scanning the roadside. This time, I was determined to stop. There was something about her sorrowful eyes that lingered in my thoughts, a sense that maybe I could help. Sure enough, she appeared again, standing in the same spot. I stopped my truck a safe distance away, heart pounding, but felt a pull to approach her. Gathering my courage, I stepped out of my truck and walked toward her. The air grew colder with each step. When I was just a few feet away, she spoke, her voice a haunting whisper.
"Help me."
I shivered. "How can I help you?" I asked, my voice trembling.
"Find my locket.
Pointing to a spot in the desert.
It's the key."
Determined to help, I came back the next day with a metal detector. After what felt like hours of searching under the scorching desert sun, I found an old rusted locket. A wave of emotion washed over me as I held it in my hand. Inside was a photograph of a young woman, clearly the ghost I'd seen, and a man, presumably her husband. I took the locket to the local historical society and learned about a tragic accident in 1937 involving a young couple traveling to California. The woman's body was never found, presumed lost in the desert. Their names were Amelia and Henry Walker, and the locket contained the only remaining piece of their love story. Returning to the spot where I'd seen her, I knelt down and dug a small hole and placed the locket in it. As I did, I whispered a prayer, a hope that Amelia's spirit could finally find peace. The desert wind picked up, rustling through the sparse desert brush, and for a moment, I swear I felt a gentle touch on my shoulder. Looking back, there was nothing there, but a strange sense of calm washed over me. I never saw the ghost again, but I like to think I helped her find the closure she needed. Since then, travelers still report seeing the woman in white, but now there's a sense of calm about her, as if she's finally at rest.